Welcome to this week's edition of the Weekly Travel Alert. I'm Steve Glenn.
I'm Paul Glenn.
Hey, Paul, we're rocking and rolling here at Executive Travel. We've been in the saddle how many years now?
39.
39, executivetravel.com, down at 1212 Street in good old Lincoln, Nebraska. And we've got a YouTube channel. Where's it at?
On YouTube, you just got to spell out Executive Travel, and you'll pop up all these little podcasts.
It's idiot proof.
It is pretty, yeah.
It's travel for dummies.
As long as you can spell executive.
Hey, we got some exciting news today we're going to cover because, there's been so much downer news. We've got some upper news. And
Good.
That's what we all want to hear. And
Focus on positive.
Yeah, so I did a lot of research over the weekend. I literally spent Sunday afternoon just going through Google flights left and right, coach class, business class. I found some really cool information. I'm excited to share it today. Every Tuesday at 10:30, we send 100,000 emails across the planet. Called the Weekly Travel Alert. What we do is take from that and identify and share that with you on our podcast today. So here we go.
Let's do it.
Item number one. With the airlines all crying wolf, flying this summer is becoming a great bargain. Paul, I've gone through all these airfares and, we've heard everything from tariffs to wars to Ukraine to recession to stock market to the euro to the dollar and all this stuff. Now I've got some great news.
Okay.
It's actually causing airfares to stay low,
stable,
and not go through the stratosphere. You and I were worried about that about 90 days ago.
Yeah. Well, and I think what we're seeing is, there's just people are holding off a little bit. I was just looking at some options for a meeting I have in Billings, Montana here in June, and I was pleasantly surprised at the pricing compared to what traveling here earlier in the year was for domestic. I mean, it's 50% of what it cost me to go to Florida.
Yeah. And that's what we wanted to share with you today is that exciting news. The second headline in this week's Weekly Traveler reads, Executive Travel's new domestic airfare index shows the great prices for domestic airfares this summer. Paul, I basically said, if I wanted to travel, I'm going to pick out 5 cities around the U.S. that are top travel cities and build an index and say, okay, we're going to index what does it cost to travel there in June, July, August, and September. Okay. And I took those 5 cities, and those cities were New York City, Chicago, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Orlando. So both business, both vacation, kind of in there. And I did actually Omaha to each of those 5 cities. So I went Omaha, New York, Omaha, Chicago, Omaha, Dallas, Los Angeles, and Orlando.
Were you doing midweek or over the weekend?
Just said the cheapest.
Okay.
So I asked for the cheapest during the month, and here's the breakdown by month, which is really good. But the overall, if you averaged everything for the summer, was only $248 round trip.
Some of the best pricing you can find for the last 3 years.
Yeah. So something's because all the negativity is causing people to stay home, which brings down airfares. And so I'm seeing a $248 average to those 5 cities in the 4 months of June, July, August, and September. Okay. So what I found is during the month of June, the average airfare was actually a pretty low $236 round trip. July, $234, went down a couple bucks. August sneaked up a couple bucks. August was $241. And September went even higher, $281. So what it shows me is this fall, people are going to travel a little bit more.
Or the airlines are trying to hedge that pricing up, getting people to pay a little bit more if they're going to book a little bit farther out. So I think what we're seeing is the closer we're getting, the more that they've got inventory that they want to fill, then they're going to drop those prices to try to entice people to jump on board an airplane. So but the farther out we're looking, I think as we've seen historically, the farther out you're booking, the more that the pricing is going to be.
Well, and as you said earlier, this is a lot lower than it was a year ago.
I know earlier this year I had a ticket to Florida that was $900. So
oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it's time to get out.
You could Uber it there for that. Hey, the third item on this week's Weekly Travel Alert reads, Executive Travel's European Coach Class Airfare Index. So we created a domestic one.
Okay.
Then I created a European one. And I said, first, we need to do it for coach because most of people travel coach to Europe.
Yep.
And I picked out 5 cities once again, and those cities were basically key European cities: Paris, London, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens. I mean, that's pretty.
If you're going to go, there's pretty good likelihood that that's where you're going to be.
Yeah, you bet.
Ending up.
And we said, let's pick not from the coast. Let's pick from good old Omaha, Nebraska.
Okay.
So these are round trip fares from Omaha, Nebraska, coach class during the months of June, July, August, and September.
Okay.
And guess what? The average summer month airfare coach class to those 5 cities, $867
Okay.
in the summer.
That's great.
That's amazing because last year I remember it being double that.
That's 1,600, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the breakdown by month. June was 1,031.
Okay.
July 985. So it slipped down quite a bit. August went down. You won't believe this. Drum rolls. $675.
Wow. Well, the kids are getting back into school.
Yeah.
And your hardcore travelers, I think when you look at June, your hardcore travelers that are going to do that every year, they're booking it a year in advance.
Yeah.
And so it's not a surprise that inventory is probably a little tighter in June because those people have booked farther in advance.
Yeah, but they're selling $675 round trip Omaha to those 5 cities, and then September $776. My gosh, it's cheaper there than to go to Atlanta.
Cheaper than Florida.
That's
earlier this year.
right. So these prices are 40 to 50% cheaper than they were a year ago. And so I tell people, man, if you want to go to Europe, it's a
great
year
summer
to go.
to do it.
Good year to go. The next item on the Weekly Traveler, the headline reads, European Business Class Airfare Index screams with prices almost half the cost from last summer. Paul, are you sitting down?
Sitting down.
Okay. You won't believe these prices.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, these are the lowest prices. So if you want to go just United or just Delta, or you may not get the lowest price. But these, I scoured all the lowest prices, and oftentimes it takes 2 or 3 connections to get the lowest price. So it's not always the most convenient. But we haven't seen these prices. Get this. Here we go. We compared these, again, from Omaha to Paris, London, Rome, Amsterdam, and Athens.
Okay.
Those 4. The average business class round trip, $3,554.
Wow. I know I'm leaving for Ireland this week, and when I was looking at it, on my preferred carrier, it was over $10,000 for business class. The alternative option was over $8,000. So this is less. This is 60% lower than what that was for travel in April and May. So
yeah, and I think May has become a very expensive month.
It's that shoulder season.
Yeah.
I mean, the weather's still bearable over there compared to what the last couple summers have entailed, and you're beating the crowds, you're beating the family travel.
Yeah.
So I think what you get in the shoulder seasons, you get the people that have the freedom of time that are trying to beat some of the crowds. But that being said, you've got more people that are willing to pay to sit in the front of the airplane.
Yeah, that's right. So here we go. But for that $3,554 round trip business class ticket to those 5 cities in Europe, the class breakdown by month, the business class, was June was $34.25, July $33.50, August $36.14, and September $38.35. Basically, as you said, they're half price of what they were a year ago and even a couple months ago. So it also sends a message to me that the planes aren't full.
Well, and I think the airlines have been, over the last 3 years, they've been working towards getting more business class, first class seats on those airplanes going over the water because that's the high revenue stuff. So now that maybe there's a softening on people that are willing to pay for those, we're starting to see some good opportunities.
You bet. And I know I watch Rome a lot. So even United Airlines, going to Rome, they have direct flights from Newark, from Dulles.
Chicago still?
From Chicago. They've got them from San Francisco, and they just added Denver for a direct flight to Rome. So can you imagine having that many direct flights from just one airline? Think of, and then now they're adding flights into Naples and places that I would call a third tier that you really normally wouldn't go to. So they've added all these flights. And then as you noticed, all these airlines are adding so much more business class seats. You know, I read where the American's new livery setup will be 70 business class seats.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It's got to be half the airplane.
Well, it's probably for sure revenue-wise for them or more. Yeah. So anyway, that's an amazing number for business class. Now, the next item on this week's Weekly Traveler, the fifth headline reads, Americans appear to retreat from the heat in Europe during the hot summer months of July and August. And you can see that with prices. It used to be August was one of the most expensive times to go to Europe. And now, you remember when we were over there August a year ago, it was miserable.
It was miserable, yeah.
Yeah, and I think people are saying, I'm going to avoid the heat.
Yep.
And especially in Italy this year, with the Jubilee,
Yep.
they're going to have 4 more million people over there. People are saying, I'm going to avoid that mess.
It also goes back to our podcast from a couple weeks ago of having the hub hotel.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of the things that when we were there last July, we'd go out and explore during the morning before it got too hot, and then we'd just go back to the hotel or the villa, wherever we were staying, and relax by the pool and enjoy some downtime in the afternoon. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that just kind of another reason to think through giving yourself plenty of time so that you can not have to be miserable, you know, maximize the day based on what it's got to offer, and don't make it so that you've got to power through when it's 100 degrees on those concrete streets in the big city fighting a crowd and everybody's sweaty and gross.
Hey, the next headline in this week's Weekly Traveler reads, the only negative we see traveling to Europe this summer is that hotel costs have risen with the U.S. dollar's decline. Paul, I was looking at the computer today, and I do the euro to U.S. dollar comparison sheet, and it was 1.15.
Oh, wow.
So 45 days ago, it was 1.02.
Yeah.
So it's gone up 13% in the last 45 days. So, ladies and gentlemen, that means on that $200, 200 euro hotel cost per night this summer in Europe, it basically means your cost went up. That 200 euro 45 days ago was about $204, and now it'd be $226. It'd be up 20, up 20 some bucks a night. So that's a little negative in that process. And then the next headline we have in this week's Weekly Travel Alert reads, most people who have traveled to Italy remark that the food cost is a bargain compared to the USA. I know every time you and I go in a grocery store there, I can come out with 10 bags and go, this is $52. And people don't believe us.
Yeah.
But it really is a great value. I think 40 to 50%. I actually did some comparison. A loaf of bread was almost 41% cheaper. Apples were 58% cheaper. Tomatoes 47%. Potatoes 50%. Onions, those are all fresh foods, you know. But even dining out, even a Big Mac meal in Italy is 24% cheaper than over here in the U.S.
You know, if we go to Mike's restaurant over there, you're getting for the equivalent of $25 something that you wouldn't even find in Lincoln, Nebraska for less than 50. So.
Yeah, that's La Antica Osteria in Montone, Italy. Am I getting pretty good at rolling?
You are. I can't ever remember the name of it. I just know where it's at, know that there's good food.
Mike Andriani and his wife, Belinda. And daughters Olivia and Leah. Yeah, quite the restaurant. You'll have to go when you go to Italy and stop by Montone. So dining out, fast food, and as you said, inexpensive restaurants over there. So your dollar goes much farther with food. Hotels will be a little iffy this year, but and the airfares are great. Yeah. So if you're thinking about traveling, I think actually this summer is a great time to do it. And on a last call, I'd like to tell our listeners and watchers to look at villadestinoitaly.com. We've got some openings in August this year. 4 weeks in August are open, and I'll tell you, with a swimming pool and a hot tub, jacuzzi, it's a great way, sitting on a cliff overlooking the valley of Umbria.
I think I'll take one of those weeks.
You should.
Sounds good to me. Good. I love my virtual workplace over there, overlooking the hill.
Yeah. Hey, and the next few weeks we're coming to you with some big news about what's what we're seeing with meeting costs. And should you have your meeting in Italy instead of in the U.S., and how much you can save if you do that. So stay tuned in the coming weeks. Other than that, Paul, you might tell them to zip, boom, bing.
Yes, thank you for joining us. Please like, subscribe, share, and add any comments or feedback on topics that would be of interest for future episodes. We'll see you next week.
Sitting alone, sitting on a pillow, waiting for night to fall.
Happy birthday, Steve!
Celebrate.